Hi, everybody. This is Dana Wilde with the Mind Aware, and welcome. I'm so excited to dive into this awesome interview I've got planned for you today with Jodi and Chad Keller. You know, we've been using Train Your Brain in so many interesting ways when it comes to business, and people have gone out, they've used it for all sorts of things, weight loss and parenting and relationships and all kinds of stuff. Well, I had an opportunity to meet with Jodi last year, and she told me the most amazing train your brain story that I thought, you know what, we've just got to get together and I've got to have you tell the world. And so let's spend a little time and get to know Chad and Jodi Keller. Hi, guys. How are you doing?
Good.
Hi, Dana.
So,
So,
yeah, jump in. Tell us, Jodi. Tell us, you just go ahead and get us started on what you told me last year.
okay. So I discovered Train Your Brain in July of 2013. And it's one of those programs that once you start getting into it, you just can't stop thinking about it. So I started watching the program, and then I would report everything that I learned to Chad. And it was what we talked about. Every night he'd come home from work, and I'd tell him what I learned. And it was fascinating to me that you could change your life just by changing the way you're thinking. So we heavily talked about it for the next 2.5 months. And on September 14th, 2013, I received a call from Chad because he had went out deer hunting. So it was opening day of deer hunting. And I was actually listening to one of your programs in the car. So I'm driving home with the kids, and I get a phone call from him around like 4:20. And I was even thinking, wow, it's really early for him to be calling. He must have shot a deer. So I answered the phone like, hey, did you get a deer? And he said, no, I fell out of my tree stand and I can't move. So I was like, do you need me to call 911? And so he said, yeah, and he told me kind of where he was because he was behind our house. So I hung up with him, called 911, and then I met the first responder at our house and did a three-way call with him and Chad to get him back to, because I had no idea where he was. So he jumped on our four-wheeler and drove to the back of our field, and Chad directed him, right, to where we were. But at this time, he wasn't feeling his legs. Your hands were going. So the first responder actually called ahead, and they called in flight because he had a feeling it was going to be a neurological injury. So
Can I stop you for a second, Jodi?
we just, yeah.
I want to ask you a question right about that time, Chad. When you were laying there and you were having that experience, were you aware of any emotion that you were having in the moment? Like, were you scared, or were you worried or angry, or were you thinking, aware of your thoughts at that point, or were you just kind of reacting?
Sorry, how do you feel? You just text.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't angry or worried. I was just thinking I don't know. I knew that I would somehow get better. I just thought about the kids a lot, that I need to get better for them and get up and do something or figure something out.
No,
So I can get back to the kids,
I appreciate your sharing that, because was kind of curious, like in the moment, how, I mean, that's it's interesting to me that I like your spirit and your attitude, that your first attitude was kind of like, okay, this is going to be okay. We're going to work this out, even before you knew anything that was going on. So really, really incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So Jodi, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. I'll let you continue.
No, and I should say too that he fell because he blacked out. So it wasn't like he was unsafe in the tree. He was up in the tree. He was texting his brother, and then all of a sudden he started getting dizzy. Yeah. And he was like, whoa, I better get down. Mm-hmm. And the next thing he knew, he woke up and he was on the ground.
Wow.
So it took him 30 minutes to get his phone out of his pocket to call me. And then Flight for Life ended up landing in our backyard. So got to the hospital. I went down with his parents, and I remember even just being like on the way to the hospital, I was like, everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. You know, I was probably in a state of shock, but I was like, he'll walk. Like, this is no big thing. Like, he probably just like hurt himself. And like, I was not thinking, I didn't even know what a spinal cord injury was at the time. So when we got to the hospital, I remember me and his mom went in the bathroom, and I'm like, he's going to be fine. Like, everything's going to be fine. I just feel like, I think I would know if something was going to be wrong, but I'm like, he'll be fine. So when the doctors called us back, you know, they just said he broke his neck and his back. And then they're like, so we're going to see, he needs an MRI to see if he had the spinal cord injury. And I was like, oh, so then like he's had surgery and then he'll be fine. And he was like, you know, like I had no idea. And then they keep asking me, like, do you have any questions? It's like you don't even know what to ask because you've never been through it. So once he got settled and he went upstairs, they did the MRI. And at this point, I mean, he couldn't move his legs or his arms below his forearms, so he didn't have his hands. He could move his triceps, so that was good. But then he did the MRI, and then the neurologist, you know, told me he did have a spinal cord injury at C5 and C6. So they had to do surgery right away to fuse his neck back together. So this was like a Saturday night. So then they called in a surgeon, and they did surgery at like 5 a.m. on Sunday morning. So, and even then too, I remember asking the neurologist, like, oh, so then he has surgery and you fix his spinal cord and then he'll be able to move? She was like, ma'am, you should just be happy he has any movement below his injury site. She's like, he should be a quadriplegic. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I had no idea. So
that must have been such a hard time for you, Jodi,
yeah.
Huh?
I was fortunate enough to have his whole family was with me, and then my parents were out of town, but my sisters, you know, I remember calling them, and they're like, well, we're coming to the hospital. And I was like, why? It's not a big deal. Like, he's going to be fine. You don't have to come to the hospital. They're like, no, really, we're all going to meet you at the hospital. It's fine. So I was surrounded by, you know, I have 3 sisters and a brother, and then his brother and sister and his parents. So, wow. And then his cousin. So that was nice just to be with all of them and waiting together.
And so then what happened? Like, how did you, because obviously it sounds like the whole time you're going through the experience, you're still feeling hopeful. You're still feeling hopeful. You're feeling like, okay, you know, I mean, they're probably giving you worse news than you're thinking it is in your mind. You're already turning it around. They're trying to give you really bad news, and you're trying to say, like, no, we don't accept that bad news. This is going to work out, kind of a thing. I mean, is that how it went down? How did it go down that you just turned the situation around? Because most people would get so sucked into that story.
Well, even from the minute when he fell, he was like, it's going to be fine. I'll be fine. I'll be able to walk. Like, he never went to the place of, I'm never going to walk again. He was always like, no, I'm going to walk. And when I saw him, you know, go ahead.
Well, I was just wondering, Chad, how instrumental do you think that was in your recovery? Like, how important do you think it was that you kept your hopes up and that you had your mindset right in your journey that you went on from there?
Oh, I think it's probably huge. Yeah, I think a lot of people get sucked into that, well, you're never going to do this or never going to do that again, where there wasn't a minute that I thought I wasn't going to get up and walk again.
Isn't that amazing?
So,
yeah,
I think it's huge. You get... Go ahead.
No, I was going to say it is amazing when you said that there's so many people that get sucked into it. It's not just with health issues, is it? You know, people get sucked into that with everything. Well, you can't do this or you can't do that. I mean, well, your example is just like magnified what we're all doing in our lives all the time. We're either telling ourselves we can't do it or we can do it, and you're just an exaggerated version of that, really. You know, so it's amazing. Really interesting. So, Jodi, did you have anything you want to add about start talking about that journey of recovery that happened and kind of your interaction with the hospital, or what they thought about you two? They must have just thought, like, who are these two? What do they keep saying? Why don't they listen to us?
So right away, so after surgery, it's like they get you in therapy immediately. So the surgeon, after the surgery, he was like, I said, so what kind of recovery is he going to make? Is he going to be able to walk? And he's like, well, from where he is right now to making a full recovery, he said, I'd say he's going to land somewhere in the middle. So I was like, okay, whatever that means. But he started meeting with a therapist from occupational therapy and physical therapy. And right away, Angie is his occupational therapist. And she's like, I knew he was special from the minute I saw him because of his attitude. He was just like, right from the beginning, everything's going to be fine. I'm going to walk. And as a therapist for over 20 years, she knows how important it is when you have that positive attitude. So they always called it PMA, so positive mental attitude. And anytime, she was always like, PMA. But she knew he was going to do great things. And I remember even like when his thumb flickered, she was like, oh my gosh, his thumb is coming back. Like, she couldn't believe it. And she got so excited that I was like, how do you remember every patient? Like, how did you know his thumb moved? Just by holding it, she could be like, oh, I can feel it. It's going to come back. It's going to come back.
That's amazing. And so let me know how much, when you first had the injury, how much of you were you not able to feel? What came back for you over time?
It was like chest.
Yeah.
Because he had his triceps, but then not his arms, not his hands, not his legs. So they would say, like, squeeze my hand, and they would like hold his hand, and there was like nothing.
Wow.
And you could see in his face, like, he was trying so hard.
Did you feel?
And then even like moving his toes.
So, Chad, did you feel like when that was happening, was there any moment where you felt discouraged, or did it just feel like, well, I'm not there yet, but I'm going to get there? Or what kind of thinking was going on in your head as you were having those milestones?
Yeah, I don't think there was ever a moment that I got, really upset, except for when there was times where I knew I could do more and I didn't. I was never really down or upset or anything. You see so many down people there that I don't know. It's tough to explain as far as you just got to keep your attitude up and look at the other side, and it'll all come together.
So what was the timeline then? Jodi, maybe you can put it into perspective. The accident happened in September, right? 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And so what was the recovery period like?
So that was September 14th. So then on September 26th, which was the day of our twins, their birthday, that was the first day they got him up and they harnessed him to try to get him to learn to walk again. Because, literally from the minute he got upstairs, it was like, I'm going to walk. I'm going to walk. I'm going to walk into my house. And they were like, well, you still need a wheelchair. He's like, I'm going to walk home. Like, that is all he wanted to do was practice. How am I going to get my legs to move? Because I want to walk. So any exercises they would throw at him, he was like, sure, let's try it. Sure, let's try it. And the strides he made at the beginning was unheard of. Like, what he all did. And he came home 5 weeks later and he walked into our house. So
it just gives me goosebumps.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
And I remember even one day when he walked in with the walker, and I looked at his therapist and I said, so how often do you see recoveries like this? And she's like, oh, I've been here 20 years. Like, I've never seen it. It was just like so drastic and it was so fast. Like, they said sometimes people will get to walk, but they'll work on it for like a year. Wow. And they'll get it in like outpatient therapy, where he was walking ready within weeks after the accident. It was crazy.
It is crazy. You're blowing my mind totally. It's just amazing. And so how much of this was intentional? Because Chad, I'm telling you, I'm getting from the impression, because I know you said when we started that you started talking about Train Your Brain a lot in July. And I'm getting the impression from you, Chad, that this is kind of your MO anyway. You seem like you're really easygoing and maybe more bent to the positive already. And so I'm wondering, how much of your recovery do you feel like was intentional? Like you were saying, I'm going to will this to happen, like there's no way this is not going to happen. Were you intentionally just saying like, this is going to happen? And Jodi, I know I can already probably answer for you. I know you were right. Like you were just training your brain left and right because it makes a difference. I mean, he had to have you by his side too through all of this, right? So what about that? Did you will this to happen?
Yeah. I believe 98% of, everything you do is mental. If you tell yourself you can't do something, you're not going to be able to do it.
Truth.
So yeah, I think it has a lot to do with where I am now and how I am still getting better.
And so I'm sure there's been, challenges since then, but how much do you think of your day-to-day now are you kind of staying aware of what your stories are and what your challenges are and turning them around? I mean, Jodi, maybe you want to answer that one. How much of your day-to-day environment do you think that you're trying to practice these kind of brain training principles?
Well, I love how one thing I learned from you is, like, when you look at somebody, he's in pain every single day, all day long. He doesn't take any pain pills because he was like, no, I don't need pain pills. I can just figure out how to deal with this. It's just the way it is. It's fine. So we don't even talk about it. So I know he's in pain, but if I were to look at him and see him in pain all the time and talk about him being in pain, it would probably make things a lot worse. So I don't even think about, like, I know he's in pain, but I'm not giving it my full attention. And he doesn't talk about it. So a lot of people will look at him and they're like, oh, he's like totally fine. Like he's made a full recovery. But they don't know, they don't know what's going on because he doesn't think about it. He just keeps doing what he's doing, and we're very aware.
I heard this really good quote from Abraham Hicks that I thought was useful. When you mentioned the pain, they were talking to somebody, it had to do with somebody who had arthritis pain, actually was what it was. But what they said was, you can have pain and you can feel fearful, or you can have pain and you can be hopeful, and it's a huge difference between the two. And it sounds to me like that's where you are at. You can have pain and you can complain about it and focus on it, and it will persist and it will just be worse. Or you can have pain and you can, distract yourself with things that are pleasant, go about your day, know that you're going to get through it. And really, that's the shift between actually recovery and not recovery. I just thought that was a really good point that I heard somewhere else that I thought maybe you'd like. Do you have anything you want to add about that, Chad?
Just like everything else, if you focused on, if I'm focused on the pain all the time, you're just going to be sitting there and in pain.
Yeah.
You just got to, like you said, shift your focus somewhere else.
Well, it becomes your life then. Then your whole life becomes, my day-to-day life is all about my pain, rather than my day-to-day life can be about other things, and I can still have this pain in the background, but it doesn't have to be what my life is about, kind of a thing. So, just a great example. Right. So much of what you're saying, Chad, like we could apply to so many other parts of our life, So very awesome. Jodi, go ahead. What do you got there? I want to see now. You got me all curious.
So in his hospital room, we had his mantras.
Oh, my fingers move easily and effortlessly. I see my fingers move more every day. Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. My mind and body are healthy and strong. Everything is going my way. Oh, you two are just rock stars.
So that was right above in front of his bed every day. That's, we kept looking at it, and he was just, even now, it's like, you're just thankful that he's walking to be able to like chase after the kids. And because at the time Drew was only 2. So we had a 2-year-old and then twins who were 6. So
Wow.
that was, I mean, he was going for it. Like, I'm going to walk and I'm going to be with my kids. So
Oh man, that is just such a touching story. It's just amazing. Well, thank you. I really appreciate you both sharing this. You know, if somebody's listening to this and they are dealing with a physical challenge that maybe they're unsure if they're going to recover from, or they're unsure how to cope with it, do either of you, let's maybe take advice from either one of you. Do you have any parting comments or parting thoughts for people who are in this situation with regards to the power of mindset, how much a mindset can make a difference in their physical ailments? So who wants to go first? Chad, you want to go first?
Sure. I would just say, yeah, you got to focus on the positives. You got to pick something in life that means something and just focus on that. Like for me, it was the kids. That was my driving force the whole time. I knew I wanted to get out there and throw a football with them. Yeah, I won't be able to run with them, but to throw a football, and like I said, just pick something positive and something that motivates you, and you got to go for it.
I love that too, that you can just pick something in your life, whatever it is. Like, that's such good advice. Thank you for that, Chad. You're such an inspiration. I love that. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us. And Jodi, how about you? What would you say to the person who's out there, either the person who's experiencing it or the person who is the partner to the person experiencing it? You have any parting advice?
I would say to the partner, you know, it's really important to stay positive, because if I would have been negative, it would have been easier for him to be negative, you know, but I was like, no, everything, you know, like we were in it together and it was like, no, everything's good. And when, you know, if I'd cry, he'd be like, no, stop crying. He's like, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. You know, so it's just, you can, if you're going to be negative, maybe just don't be negative in front of that person, but just, you know, keep focusing on, like, pick out something positive. Like, you know, if there's one thing that went right, it's like focus on that, and then you're going to see more things that are going right instead of focusing on what is bad. You know, if the doctors tell you you're never going to do this, well, even if you have a little change, it's like, wow, you know, this is good. This is good. I'm going to focus on that. The doctors aren't going to tell me what I can do. So just keep. You're the only, like you say, you're the only one that can think in your head. So make your thoughts count.
Totally true. Nice 2 phrases. You're the only one that can think in your head. Make your thoughts count. I love it. And this idea of picking one thing that's going right and focusing on that's, again, I'm so amazed at how much everything you're saying really transfers to everything in our life. We want to focus on what's going wrong. Well, if you make all of your attention on that one thing that's going right, that's going to make you feel good. It's going to make you feel like you're having success. You're going to start to feel better. You're going to gain some traction. You're going to get more of those things that feel right. I mean, just fantastic advice all around, you guys. You both are just amazing, and I feel so honored to be here talking to you and to be part of this like journey that you're going on, and I can't wait to hear where this goes. And I'm sure if you're up for it, let's visit again, because I really just admire what you're going through, and I appreciate you both so much. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
And we'll see you, everybody. Thank you for being here. And I hope this has inspired you as well. I mean, really, everything they said, whether you're experiencing a physical ailment or a challenge or not, you can apply it to your own life. The positive mindset, right? PMA, positive mental attitude. Apply that brain training to everything that you're doing. Focus on what's going right. Focus on the things that are working well. Distract yourself from the stuff that's painful or not working, because you know what? When you do that, when you don't take no for an answer, then it's so easy for you to move more and more in that direction. You know, the power of mindset, you can make those miraculous changes in your own life, whether it's physical or otherwise. Thank you so much for being here, everybody, and we'll see you soon. Bye.